With the prospective crown prince on a rampage and the ministers in power unwilling to stop him, someone needs to do something to make his crimes undeniable. Unfortunately, the one person with the ability to do that is too busy sulking to be of help. Something needs to snap him out of his belligerent mood, and someone eventually does. Know who it is surprises even our pouty prince. Episode 3, Your Name Is. Yitan catches Yeoji after she steals a locked box from his tent. Yeoji tells him to let Yeoji go and to find him instead. Yitan accuses him of showing off, but Yeoji says lazily that he's just doing what any man would do, save the pretty lady. Yitan scoffs at Yeoji as he readies his bow and arrow, reminding him that he's surrounded. Yeoji takes aim at Yitan and says, "I only need to beat one person." He lets his arrow fly, and Yitan screams like a little girl and hides behind one of his men. When he realizes he wasn't shot, he taunts Yeoji that he missed, and even Yeoji yells at him for starting a fight when he can't even shoot. Yeoji just asks if she's a good runner, and suddenly they hear a noise coming from the woods. A wild boar comes barreling into the campsite, with Yeoji's arrow sticking out of its hide. Yeoji calls to Yitan that he wins the prize for shooting the biggest beast, Haechi, then grabs Yeoji's hand and they run into the trees. Yeoji tells Yeoji to go on while he distracts the men. She asks if he's able to handle the men all by himself after she hit him in a sensitive area, but he brushes it off, saying that she went easy on him. She's all, "Well, I saw you limping earlier." They make arrangements to meet up later, and Yeoji leads Yitan's men in one direction while Yeoji runs in another. Yeoji fights the men single-handedly armed only with his bow, and when Yitan jumps in, Yeoji hooks Yitan by the neck with his bow and shoves him to the ground. Horrified by his own nosebleed, Yitan screams, "How dare you do this to the next king?" Yeoji just smirks, but his smile soon fades. King Suzhong rides up to them on his horse, and he quips that he was told he'd see something he's never seen before on this hunt. He shushes Yitan when he tries to stammer an explanation, then asks Yeoji if he's causing trouble again. Yeoji wilts under his father's disappointment. A depressed Moon-soo tells Abong that the guy he caught cheating on the civil service exam got the highest score, while he failed yet again. Abong wonders if the guy is low-born, since you don't normally see intelligent nobles taking the test for others. Moon-soo is more interested in the fact that No Tae-pyong, who hired the guy to test for him, has suddenly disappeared. Nearby, a scruffy-looking man eats while the restaurant owner pays what he can of his rent. The man complains that business is bad because the food is bad, and directs the owner to a nearby fish shop for some better anchovies. He leaves most of the paltry rent payment behind, saying that the owner won't survive if he gives him all of his money. The man, whose name is Dalmoon, Park-hoon, overhears Moon-soo and Abong on his way out. He asks a friend to find out more about them. Magistrate Kim is called to the Sahunbya headquarters by Young-sok, and he accuses Young-sok of leading the nut inspection at his house. Young-sok explains that it's because Magistrate Kim obstructed his murder investigation. Meanwhile, Yeoji is at the Department of Justice being questioned about his fight with Yitan. He's asked about the disguised women who stole from the prince, but Yeoji advises them not to arrest her or she'll talk, and what she says will embarrass the royal family. He goes on and on about how he's sick of women these days, so he's looking elsewhere. He groans that he thought he would become attracted to that woman if he dressed her as a man, then notes that the ministry official looks awfully good in his uniform, eyeing him up and down lasciviously. Ha ha ha. Prince Yunryeon, Yi-won, visits the Ministry of Justice looking for Yeoji, and by the time Yeoji is released, there is a full-blown argument going on because the Minister of Personnel, Minister Min, accused Prince Yunryong of using Yijium to harm Yitan, his primary rival for the throne. The prince neatly silences the argument and warns Minister Min not to use today's incident against Yijium later. Minister Min says it's disappointing the way Yuan always defends Yijium, but Yuan fires back that he doesn't care what Minister Min thinks of him. Minister Min just darkly warns Yuan that a king can't work alone. Yuan and Yijium go for a walk alone, and Yijium apologizes that Yuan got blamed for his bad behavior. He tells Yuan that he's too nice and should blame others sometimes, and should probably get Minister Min on his side, because politics is about how many supporters you have. Yuan retorts that there's already a crown prince, but Yijium says sadly that they both know he'll be replaced, and that Yuan will die if he doesn't become the next crown prince. Yuan says that he still can't consent to the Norins ignoring the throne and pursuing one-party tyranny. Yijium mentions Yitan's death ledger, saying that he may be able to get at Yitan's weak spot with it. At Sahunbu, Yeoji breaks into Yitan's box, and she's upset and confused when all it contains is dried flowers. She apologizes to Youngsok, who sent her to the hunting camp for Yitan's death ledger, but he says that if she couldn't find it, it wasn't there. Abgang asks Yeoji to help him find the civil service exam cheater for Moonsu. She recognizes Yijium from Moonsu's drawing, and upset, she demands to know where Moonsu is right now. She meets with Yijium at the place and time they arranged, and she shows him the dried flowers in Yitan's box. He's not as disappointed as she is, calling Yitan an unpredictable madman. Yeoji asks him his name and occupation, but he refuses to tell her, and says that he won't ask who she is, either. She says she's a Sohenbu inspector, and correctly guesses that he's Prince Younging. Yijium abruptly ends their meeting and leaves without another word. As soon as he steps outside, Moonsu leaps at him, thanking Yeoji for helping him catch the exam cheater. Yitan is currently having a screaming fit over Yijium being set free, threatening to kill Yijium himself as he destroys Magistrate Kim's house. Minister Min says that it's the royal court's business, but Yitan growls that once he's king, Yijium won't be the only one to die, implying that he means Minister Min and his followers. But Minister Min slaps Yitan so hard he hits the ground, and he tells Yitan that King Sukjong used the pretext of restoring order to excuse purging all opposition, replacing his servants often and wiping out the nobles. He says that such a king mustn't come to power again. Moonsu is physically pushing around Yijium, who says this just makes him look done. Moonsu, everyone already knows I'm done. Hot. A much calmer Yeoji asks Yijium who Note Pyong is and why he substituted for him, but Yijium pretends to have no idea what she's talking about. Moonsu offers to beat a confession out of Yijium, but Yeoji explains that Note Pyong is the uncle of the widow who died after being raped by Yitan. Moonsu hears how she addresses Yijium and asks why, and Yijium snaps, "That's right, I'm a prince." Poor Moonsu looks ready to have a heart attack, and Yijium leaves angrily. Moonsu yells at Yeoji for not warning him that Yijium is a prince before he manhandled him, and she says absently that that's why she told him to go easy. She's more concerned with the fact that Yijium is trying to dig up Yitan's secret than Moonsu's conviction that his life is over. Haechi. Having learned about Note Pyong's connection to Yitan's victim, Yijium figures out that Yitan hired him to take the exam as payment for Note Pyong's niece's life. But even though he passed the exam for him, the man disappeared soon afterward. As Yijium ponders over whether the answer is in Yitan's death ledger, Dal Moon watches him from a nearby doorway. Minister Min comments that King Sukjong takes his medicine more often lately, and King Sukjong notes that Minister Min is gloating that he'll die soon. He asks if Minister Min really believes that Yitan will make a good king despite his uncontrollable temper, but Minister Min says that everyone has flaws. King Seokjong chuckles that Minister Min doesn't care who is king so long as he's a Noron. Minister Min mentions all the people the king has killed, calling it simple retaliation and not order. He says that Yitan will be a wise ruler with the right encouragement, and when King Seokjong asks about Yitan's death ledger, Minister Min says that nothing has been confirmed. Maybe not, but Yitan is in the process of beating the horse trader who hired Yejium half to death at that very moment. He seems to be angry that the horse trader didn't magically know ahead of time that he would kill No Taepyeong. He orders the horse trader to kill the man who took the test and bring him his body by tonight. Yejium learns that No Taepyeong hasn't been seen since the test, but before he can decide what to do, Moon-soo shows up at his house acting like they're suddenly besties. LOL, I love this guy. Episode 4. Yeoji takes what she's learned to Youngsok, that Yejium took the test for No Taepyeong, and that No Taepyeong was the uncle of the deceased widow. It's not enough to give Youngsok a reason to investigate Yejium, but he says that Moon-soo is out there hopefully gathering evidence. Moon-soo tries his best to butter up Yejium, though he refuses to apologize since Yejium is still a big oil cheater. He says that a citizen would have been arrested while Yejium is free, and that if it were up to him, Yejium would be arrested regardless of who he is. Yejium disagrees before taking off on his horse, daring Moon-soo to follow. He visits his horse trader friend, who wails that he's supposed to kill Yejium. Yejium asks if Yitan killed No Taepyeong, but the horse trader says he doesn't want to know. He tells Yejium to hide until things quiet down and he'll just give Yitan a dead beggar, but Yejium wonders if things will ever quiet down. Yejium's friend from the boat, Jo-hong, passes a story to a storyteller, then meets up with Yejium. She says that her story scared the storyteller, but he still takes it to Dalmoon, who instructs him to tell it everywhere that he can. It's about a woman who was raped and impregnated by a prince, who then killed her and made it look like a suicide. The story spreads among the peasants that the woman had an uncle who got the highest score in the civil service exam, and that the prince killed him, too. Word gets back to Minister Min about the rumors, and he orders Yitan brought to him. The king also orders a full investigation, and summons Yejium to the palace that evening. Yejium taunts Yitan again, asking him if he's heard the rumors. He tells Yitan to make sure he properly disposed of No Taepyeong's body, because if it's found, he'll have no chance at the throne and may even be executed. Yitan pulls a dagger on Yejium, angry that he's not afraid of him like everyone else, but Yejium says he has nothing to lose. Yitan threatens to rip Yejium apart as soon as he's king, but Yejium just laughs and twists the arm that's holding the dagger, bringing Yitan to his knees. Youngsok and his people discuss the rumors. Yeoji believes that it's about Yitan, and that he killed No Taepyeong, and Youngsok says that the only way to prove it is to find the body. His wife joins them and says that's enough work on their day off. She makes Yeoji help Youngsok's little son water the plants, and he reminds her that he's just a kid when she wonders in gory detail how Yitan might have disposed of the body. She accidentally overwaters a very rare plant, but it gives her an idea. Yeoji goes back to the box of dried flowers, and she recognizes some leaves as being from the same rare maple tree that the pregnant widow was hung from. She realizes that this isn't just a box of dried flowers, it's a box of trophies. She finds one leaf that's not fully dried yet and guesses that it's a trophy from No Taepyeong's murder. That evening, Yejium takes his bow and follows Yitan's men out to the woods. He gives himself away when he carelessly drops his bow and has to duck behind a rock. His bow is still in plain sight. But the cry of a wild animal worries Yitan's men, so they leave, and just as Yejium grabs his bow, Moon-soo pops up out of nowhere. He brags about his realistic animal noises, and that he won this round because he was able to follow Yejiam. He asks what's happening, but Yejiam just says to keep following him and he'll see what he's been looking for. Yitan's men finally reach their destination and start digging. Yejiam tells Moonsu that he thinks they're moving a corpse, and as they watch and bicker loudly over whether Moonsu is being too loud, Yeoji approaches the clearing carrying a torch. The men scatter and, oblivious, Yeoji inspects a tree whose leaves match the one she found in Yitan's box. She tries to dig the hole in the clearing deeper with her hands. One of the men sneaks up behind her, sword raised, but he takes an arrow in his sword arm. Yeoji tries to hold off the rest of the men with her torch, but it's knocked from her hands. Moonsu runs in unarmed and screaming her name, and Yeoji fights the men with her iron flail while Moonsu just bites anyone that gets close enough. Yejiam wants the men from a distance with his bow until they finally give up and retreat. Once they are gone, Yeoji goes back to digging in the dirt. She uncovers No Taepyeong's body, and Yejiam rushes home excitedly, only to find the chief royal secretary waiting to take him to his father. King Sukjeon assumes that Yejiam is late answering his summons because he was out drinking again, and Yejiam doesn't correct him. They're at the house where Yejiam's mother lived, and King Sukjeon recalls that on the day he was born, Yejiam didn't cry. It had scared both of his parents, and King Sukjeon admits that he thought he'd have felt better if Yejiam died, because he worried Yejiam would never live as a prince because of his peasant-class mother. He asks angrily if Yejiam is happy that he's lived down to his father's expectations with his reckless living, growling that he still could have lived a decent life despite his mother's status. Yejiam says furiously that he's overqualified, and that he has too much confidence, but he's not allowed to do anything. King Sukjeon agrees that Yejiam is intelligent, and that it hurts him to know how qualified Yejiam is to be king. He tells Yejiam that he'll die soon, and he begs him, before that happens, to show the world the good traits his father sees in him. Byung-ju tells Young-sok that he's being appointed the new team leader, and Young-sok thinks it's great news. Byung-ju asks if Young-sok has found a connection between Yitan and No Taepyeong, but we don't hear Young-sok's answer. Still shaken by the news that his father is dying, Yejiam rejoins Yeoji and Moonsu. Young-sok arrives to ask Yejiam if he'll testify that Yitan hired him to substitute for No Taepyeong, which would give them a reason to arrest Yitan and investigate him. Yejiam asks what Young-sok will do if he refuses, sneering that Yitan's crimes and his intent to become king have nothing to do with him. He argues that trying to prove Yitan guilty could backfire on him, but Young-sok asks why he got involved. Then, Yejiam says he did it for fun and to get Yitan in trouble, nothing more. Young-sok, Yeoji, and Moonsu are unceremoniously ushered from Yejiam's house, but Moonsu yells at Yejiam over the walls for treating them this way. He actually has tears in his eyes as he bellows that he thought Yejiam was a decent man. Inside, Yejiam's man, Jae-dong, tells Yejiam that Young-sok is an inspector with a strong sense of justice, who opposes the officials despite being a Noron. Yejiam sighs that the Norons have taken over the Sahunbu, so there's not much a lowly inspector could do there anyway. Jae-dong says pointedly that there's someone who could do something, but Yejiam, knowing he means him, says that's a pipe dream. In the morning, the Sahunbu chief inspector lets the old team leader go and appoints Byung-ju. He tells Byung-ju that Minister Min probably wants him to persuade Young-sok since they're close, but Byung-ju says it wouldn't work. He suggests they use standard tactics and open the Supreme Court to judge Yitan's crimes, in order to crush Young-sok's investigation for lack of evidence. Yejiam looks like he's been up all night, and Jo-hong pours him a drink to relax him. He almost downs the drink, but he pauses when he remembers his father's request that he show the world that he's a decent man. The Supreme Court proceeds, and Young Sok presents his theory that Yitan killed No Tae-pyung because he was threatening Yitan with what he did to No Tae-pyung's niece. The ministers ask for proof, and Young Sok says that the man who was hired to substitute the civil service exam told him so. The chief inspector asks who it is, but Young Sok recites the unwritten law that the Sahunbya do not reveal their source. We see Moon-soo screaming and pounding on Yejium's door to no avail, as Young Sok tells the court. The world used to call Sahunbya officials Haechi, because they believed the Sahunbya will judge good from evil and preserve justice. But what are we doing now? Everyone ignores the truth for his own safety. In times like these, people still look up to Sahunbya. They're hoping that we'd still stand on their side. They're hoping the Sahunbya will do their job as a judicial system. The chief inspector accuses Young Sok of cobbling together information to make Yitan look guilty. He tells Young Sok to prove otherwise by bringing the source he mentioned, but Young Sok just stands in shock, looking betrayed. The ministers call for Young Sok to be punished for lying, but behind Young Sok, the doors fly open. Yejium walks in, saying lazily, "Oh no, what a pity, that source is right here."